My name is Alara Vance, 32 years old, and I stood on that massive stage, gripping my master's degree, a solitary figure amidst a sea of celebrating families. It was a bittersweet triumph, pride soaring while loneliness gnawed, as I stared at the 5 stark, empty seats I had optimistically reserved for my parents and sisters. Later, changing into comfortable clothes in my small apartment, I opened my diploma holder. Tucked inside, partially obscured by the formal certificate, was a curious, unmarked envelope, distinctly non-academic. Before I could examine it, my phone buzzed, then vibrated incessantly. 51 missed calls, a flurry of ignored notifications from the very family who had chosen my sister's lavish bridal shower over my milestone. As the middle daughter of 3, my life felt like a perpetual audition for my family's approval. My older sister, Serafina Vance, 35, was a formidable attorney at a prestigious New York law firm. Always the golden child, the daughter my parents showcased at every social event. Serafina just secured another high-profile victory. My father, Alistair, would be utterly oblivious to the quiet shadow I cast in the corner. Then there was my younger sister, Willow, 28, the baby of the family, coddled, indulged, and utterly adored. Her fashion career wasn't a necessity, but a carefully curated extension of her glamorous persona. She was preparing to marry Corbin Hayes, the son of a wealthy businessman. Their wedding was to be, according to my mother, Cassandra, the social event of the decade. My father, Alistair Vance, 62, is the CEO of a construction company. A man of formidable expectations, though these expectations were never equitably distributed among his daughters. Serafina garnered his profound admiration, Willow his unwavering indulgence, and I received a fleeting acknowledgement when my accomplishments became simply too undeniable to overlook. My mother, Cassandra Vance, 58, was the architect of our family's social calendar, an event manager who meticulously coordinated everything from holidays to casual Sunday dinners. She was often too engrossed in orchestrating family spectacles to notice her middle daughter fading into the background. My relationship with Serafina was a chilly truce, underscored by a quiet, lifelong rivalry. I remember her gaze hardening whenever my report card outshone hers, and a quiet, rebellious thrill knowing I had academically surpassed her, even if the world, and especially my parents, remained oblivious. With Willow, it was a different kind of pain. I genuinely cherished my younger sister, yet to her, I remained largely a ghost. The perpetually forgettable middle sister, neither possessing Serafina's formidable success nor Willow's captivating charm. She called for technical assistance or practical advice, only to forget my birthday the following week. Growing up, I was always an excellent student, consistently bringing home straight A's. But my academic achievements were routinely eclipsed by Serafina's debate trophies or Willow's ballet recitals. One particularly painful memory resurfaced from when I was 15. I had been selected to perform a piano solo at a prestigious youth concert. I'd practiced for months, perfecting every note. The night of the performance, I looked out at the audience, scanning for my family's faces, only to find empty seats. They were all at Serafina's crucial tennis tournament instead. My mother later explained, "Darling, you've always been so wonderfully independent. Serafina needed our support." When I graduated from college with highest honors, only my mother attended, and she left after 30 minutes, rushing to help Willow prepare for a fashion internship interview. "You understand, don't you, Alara? This is such a big opportunity for your sister," she'd said as she hurried out, not even staying for the part where I received my honors cord. My pursuit of a master's degree was a solitary expedition. I paid my tuition through teaching assistantships and research positions. I immersed myself in computer science, specializing in artificial intelligence, not for its burgeoning trendiness, but for the profound intellectual challenge it offered. The long nights, the constant challenges, and the intellectual stimulation made me feel alive in a way my family never did. Professor Kalen Reese, a luminary in AI research, became my unexpected mentor. He possessed a keen insight, recognizing a spark in me my family had consistently overlooked. "Alara, your mind is truly exceptional," he told me one day after I presented my research. "Your approach to problem solving is truly unique. Finally, someone celebrated my intellect over my sister's more conventional, outwardly gleaming achievements. 8 months before my graduation, Willow announced her engagement to Corbin. Immediately, our family group chat erupted with a fervor usually reserved for royal announcements. My mother, Cassandra, plunged into planning what she grandly declared the social event of the decade. The bridal shower was scheduled at an exclusive resort, a lavish, all-day affair complete with spa treatments, haute cuisine, and ostentatious gifts. When I checked the date, my heart sank. It was the same day as my master's graduation ceremony. I had meticulously entered my graduation date into the shared family calendar months prior, yet it seemed to vanish into the ether of their priorities. 2 months before graduation, I sent formal invitations to my family. My mother's reaction was, at best, a lukewarm dismissal. "Oh, it's the same day as Willow's bridal shower." "Oh, darling, we'll try to manage it," she'd chirp during our obligatory weekly call. My father, Alistair, offered a vague murmur about seeing what could be done, while Serafina suggested they might pop in late or split up. 1 week before graduation, I called my mother to confirm their plans. "Mom, I just wanted to check if you guys will be at the ceremony on Saturday." "Alara, sweetie, I'm genuinely trying, but you understand this is Willow's momentous day. The shower starts at 11, and your ceremony is at 2, right?" "That's right, in the middle of everything." "I'll see if your father can maybe slip away for an hour." I swallowed the bitter pill of disappointment, mumbling an "I understand" that was a blatant lie. Not really. Despite everything, I still held on to a sliver of hope. I purchased a new dress, a deep sapphire that shimmered against my skin. I optimistically reserved a table for 5 at an upscale restaurant near campus, and even personally arranged for my family's seats in the auditorium. The night before graduation, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, oscillating between hope and dread. This time would be different, I pleaded with myself. This was a master's degree. They had to come. But a cynical whisper in my mind replayed a lifetime of similar, ultimately futile hopes. I woke up at 6 on graduation morning with a maelstrom of nervous anticipation. Despite years of disappointment, I couldn't help feeling excited. This was my day. I had worked so hard for this moment, spending countless nights hunched over my computer, debugging code, and refining my thesis until it was perfect. I took extra care getting ready, applying makeup meticulously and styling my hair in loose waves. I slipped into my new navy blue dress and looked at myself in the mirror. For a fleeting moment, I indulged in the fantasy of my family's proud faces as I crossed the stage. Would Alistair finally bestow that approving nod he reserved solely for Serafina? Would Cassandra's eyes well with tears of genuine pride? Would Serafina and Willow even register a flicker of admiration? At 8:30, I called home to confirm the plan. No answer. I tried my mother's cell phone, straight to voicemail. I sent a message to our family group chat, heading to campus now. Ceremony starts at 2. Looking forward to seeing you all there. By 9:15, I received a text from my mother, frenzied preparations for Willow's shower. We'll try to swing by your graduation later. So proud, sweetie. The familiar chill of disappointment began to seep in, but I fiercely pushed it back. Perhaps they'll surprise me, I thought. This time, it will be different. I arrived at campus and headed to the gathering point for graduating students. The air hummed with effervescent joy. Everywhere I looked, families were taking photos with their graduates, fathers proudly adjusting caps, mothers dabbing at joyful tears, siblings exchanging playful jests and warm embraces. I spotted my classmate Emma with her parents and younger brother. They were all beaming, her father's arm protectively around her shoulders, her mother fussing with Emma's gown. When Emma saw me, she waved enthusiastically. "Alara, come meet my family," she called out. I walked over, plastering a smile on my face. Emma's family was lovely, asking about my plans after graduation and congratulating me on completing the program. "Where's your family, dear?" Emma's mother inquired with genuine warmth. Oh, they're just running a little behind, I lied, the words tasting like ash. Traffic, you know how it is. Just then, Professor Reese approached, his academic robes sweeping gracefully around him. He shook my hand warmly. Alara, my sincerest congratulations. I am immensely proud of your accomplishments. Are your parents joining us? I'd be delighted to meet them. They're on their way, I said, the lie becoming easier with repetition. Bit of a traffic situation. Well, I look forward to meeting them. Your research work has been exceptional. Make sure they find me after the ceremony. I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. I checked my phone again. Nothing. Only a notification that Willow had posted a flurry of new photos on Instagram. I tapped it open, greeted by images of elaborate floral arrangements and clinking champagne flutes. The bridal shower was unequivocally in full, glorious swing. As we lined up alphabetically for the procession, I kept glancing toward the entrance doors, hoping to see my family rushing in. The ceremony began with the faculty procession, followed by us graduates, walking solemnly to our seats. Throughout the university president's welcome speech, I scanned the audience, my gaze, a homing pigeon, repeatedly finding the vacant seats I had so optimistically reserved. Halfway through the ceremony, my phone vibrated with a text. Discreetly, I checked it under my gown. Shower running longer than anticipated. Willow's opening gifts now. Don't think we'll make it in time. So incredibly sorry, sweetheart. We'll celebrate properly later. Love you. A cold, creeping numbness spread through me, an internal frost. They weren't coming. Again. How many times must I learn this lesson? How many times must I hope, only to shatter? When they finally called my name, Alara Vance, Master of Science in Computer Science, with distinction, I walked across the stage with a forced smile. There was a polite smattering of applause from the general audience, but none of the boisterous cheers or enthusiastic whistles that had greeted other graduates. No one was there, specifically, for me. I shook the dean's hand, accepted my diploma holder, and posed for the official photograph. Internally, I was a hollow echo. This moment, the culmination of years of hard work and sacrifice, felt empty without anyone to share it with. As I returned to my seat, I glanced at the vacant chairs I had reserved. 5 stark, empty seats. A silent, damning narrative of my place within my family, more eloquent than any spoken word. After the ceremony ended, the auditorium erupted into chaos as families rushed to find their graduates. Hugs, tears, laughter, and congratulations filled the air. I stood adrift, clutching my diploma holder, desperately trying to project an air of composure to mask the profound abandonment I felt. Emma and her family approached me. Alara, we're heading to the Riverside Grill to celebrate. Would you care to join us? I was touched by her genuine kindness, yet the thought of intruding on their joyous family celebration was unbearable. Thanks, Emma, but I already have plans, I lied, the words now a well-worn path. How many had I uttered today? Each one a thin veil over the crushing truth that my family simply hadn't cared enough to show up. My phone rang. A video call from my mother. I stepped away from the crowd to answer it. The screen burst into a chaotic symphony of noise and vibrant color. My mother's face appeared, flushed with champagne and excitement. In the background, I could see Willow, radiant in a pristine white dress, encircled by a throng of laughing friends and beaming relatives. Upbeat music blared, punctuated by effusive chatter. Alara, darling, congratulations, my mother shouted over the din, her voice laced with forced cheer. We're so terribly sorry we couldn't make it. The shower just went on and on. She turned, Willow, come say hi to your sister. Willow's face appeared, radiant and slightly tipsy. Hey sis, congrats on your master's thing, Willow slurred slightly, clearly tipsy. Wish you could be here. It's utterly fabulous. I bit back the bitter retort, the one screaming that it was my graduation they should have prioritized, not the other way around. Instead, I forced a smile. Thanks. Looks like you're having fun. We'll celebrate your graduation soon, I promise, my mother said quickly. Maybe next weekend. I'll make your favorite cake. Sure, Mom. That sounds great. I really must go now. My friends are waiting. Another lie, a desperate attempt to salvage a shred of dignity. Of course. Have fun, sweetie. Love you. The call ended as abruptly as it had begun. I stared at my phone screen for a moment, then opened my reservation app and canceled the table I'd booked at the restaurant. The hostess sounded sympathetic when I reduced my party from 5 to 0. Would you like us to keep a table for you and perhaps some friends instead? She asked kindly. No, thank you. I'll come another time, I replied, my voice steady, despite the ache in my chest. On my way home, I stopped at a convenience store and bought a bottle of wine and some takeout food. A celebration of one. Back in my apartment, I changed out of my graduation dress into comfortable sweatpants and a t-shirt. I sat on my sofa, looking at the diploma holder in my hands. I should have felt proud, triumphant even. I had earned this degree through my own hard work, with no support or encouragement from my family. Yet all I felt was a conflicting mixture of pride in my achievement and the sharp pain from their absence. I placed the diploma holder on my coffee table and resigned myself to a solitary dinner and my favorite comfort movie. At least I could count on myself to acknowledge my accomplishments, even if no one else would. After finishing my solitary celebration dinner, I decided to take a photo of my diploma to send to a few close friends who had texted their congratulations. I picked up the leather-bound diploma holder and opened it, planning to arrange it artistically for the photo. That's when I noticed it, a pristine, unmarked white envelope, nestled discreetly within the holder, partially obscured by the official certificate. I frowned, examining it curiously. This wasn't standard university issue. The university's official documents had all been emblazoned with the institutional logo. I carefully removed the envelope. It was sealed and had my name, Alara Vance, written on it in a distinctive, yet frustratingly unplaceable, handwriting. The envelope wasn't thick, but it clearly contained more than just a single sheet of paper. My curiosity piqued. I carefully broke the seal and opened the envelope. Inside lay 2 documents, an official-looking letterhead and a personal, handwritten note on elegant stationery. When I saw the iconic Stanford University logo gracing the top of the official letter, my heart instantly seized. I unfolded it completely, my hands trembling slightly. The letter was from the Department of Computer Science at Stanford University. As I began reading, I had to sit down, my legs suddenly weak beneath me. Dear Miss Vance, it is with immense pleasure that we extend to you an offer of admission to the Doctor of Philosophy program in Computer Science at Stanford University. I read the words over and over, unable to believe what I was seeing. Not only had I been accepted into Stanford's prestigious PhD program, but I had been awarded a full scholarship valued at over $200,000 for the 4-year program, encompassing housing, health insurance, and a generous research stipend. The letter continued, "Your exceptional, groundbreaking research in artificial intelligence and machine learning has profoundly impressed our admissions committee. We are particularly captivated by your novel approach to neural network optimization, which Professor Rees commendably brought to our attention. We firmly believe you are poised to make significant contributions to our artificial intelligence laboratory." At the bottom, the department chair had added a personal note, "We are looking forward to welcoming you to Stanford. Congratulations on this well-deserved achievement." My hands were shaking as I set down the official letter and picked up the handwritten note. I immediately recognized Professor Rees's distinctive script. "Dear Alara, congratulations on your graduation and on this well-deserved opportunity. In my decades of working with countless students, I have rarely encountered a talent and perseverance quite like yours. I took the liberty of nominating you for Stanford's Advanced AI Research Program, and I am delighted that they recognized your exceptional abilities. The competition was, understandably, fierce, 300 applicants vying for just 3 coveted positions. Yet, your singular research on neural network optimization distinguished itself amongst all candidates. I kept this a secret because I wanted it to be a surprise on your graduation day. I trust your family will be immensely proud. In fact, I've already reached out to congratulate them on raising such a truly brilliant daughter. I confess, I pulled a few strings to ensure you received the full scholarship package, but rest assured, you have earned every single penny of it. This, Alara, is the opportunity of a lifetime, and I could not conceive of anyone more deserving. With pride and admiration, Kaylin Reese. I sat back on my sofa, stunned. Stanford University. A full scholarship. The AI lab. This was beyond anything I had dared to dream. A wave of emotions washed over me: joy, pride, gratitude, and disbelief. Stanford had been my dream school since I was in high school, but I never thought I'd have the opportunity to study there, let alone with a full scholarship. The financial burden of another degree had seemed too daunting to even consider. Then a phrase from Professor Reese's letter caught my attention again: I've already reached out to congratulate them on raising such a truly brilliant daughter. He had called my family. When? My mind flashed back to the 51 missed calls. A sudden, sickening realization: they weren't frantically trying to reach me out of guilt for missing my graduation. No. They had learned about Stanford. The truth slammed into me, a gut-wrenching blow. My master's graduation, a significant academic achievement in its own right, had been utterly irrelevant to them. But the mere mention of Stanford? Suddenly, I was deemed worthy of their frantic attention. I picked up my phone and saw that more calls had come in while I was reading the letters. My mother had called 5 more times, my father twice. Even Serafina had called, which was rare. I stared at the phone, conflicted. Part of me wanted to share this incredible news, to finally have something that would make my family see me. Another part felt bitter that it took a prestigious name like Stanford to make them pay attention. After 5 rings, I finally answered my mother's call. Alara! Her voice was breathless with excitement. We've been trying to reach you for hours. Did you read the letter? Why didn't you tell us about Stanford? No, sorry, we missed your graduation. No acknowledgement of their glaring absence on one of the most momentous days of my life. Just a relentless, singular focus on Stanford. I just found it, Mom, I replied, keeping my voice neutral despite the turmoil inside. It was in my diploma holder. That's amazing news. Your father and I are so proud. A full scholarship to Stanford. Why didn't you inform us you were even considering applying? I didn't apply, I said. Professor Reese nominated me. It was a surprise to me, too. Well, it's incredible. We're all coming over to see you right now. I sat up straighter. What? Now? But what about Willow's bridal shower? Oh, darling, we've paused that. This news is immeasurably more significant. We'll be at your apartment in 30 minutes. My mind struggled to process this. They had abandoned Willow's bridal shower, the very event they couldn't possibly miss, not even for my graduation, to rush to me, all because of Stanford. But it's nearly 9 p.m. I protested, my voice barely a whisper. This can't wait until tomorrow? We're already on our way. Your father is driving, and we've got a bottle of champagne. This calls for a celebration. Before I could respond, she hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, a tumultuous maelstrom of emotions swirling within me. On one hand, I was elated about Stanford. This was everything I had worked for. On the other hand, I was hurt and angry that my family only seemed to care now that there was a prestigious name attached to my achievement. I looked around my small apartment. It was neat, but hardly prepared for visitors, especially not my entire family, who apparently thought they could just descend upon me without proper notice. But more than the state of my apartment, I wasn't sure if I was emotionally prepared to face them. The wound of their absence at my graduation was still fresh, and now they expected me to welcome them with open arms because Stanford had deemed me worthy of their program. My phone buzzed with a text from Serafina. Just heard the news. Stanford. Seriously impressive, sis. See you soon. Even Serafina was coming. When was the last time she had visited my apartment? Had she ever? I looked again at the Stanford letter, trying to recapture the pure joy I had felt before realizing my family's sudden change of heart. This was my achievement, my opportunity. I would not allow their conditional, fleeting approval to taint this profound personal triumph. Taking a deep breath, I decided to call my best friend, Emma. I needed to share this news with someone who would be genuinely happy for me. Someone who had actually been there for my graduation. Emma, you're not going to believe what just happened. 30 minutes later, I found myself on a video call with my entire family. They had called from the car, too impatient to wait until they arrived at my apartment. The screen showed my parents in the front seats, while Serafina, Willow, and even Corbin, Willow's fiancé, were crowded into the back of my father's SUV. The scene was surreal. Willow was still in her white bridal shower dress, looking distinctly unhappy. Guests could be seen milling about in the background at the resort where they had abruptly paused the celebration. "Alara, show us the letter," my father demanded, his face flushed with excitement. I had never seen him this animated when speaking to me. I held up the official Stanford letter to the camera, and my father squinted to read it. $200,000. Full scholarship. "That's my girl," he exclaimed, as if he had been supportive of my academic pursuits all along. My mother's face filled the screen. "My brilliant daughter. I always knew you were special, sweetie." Stanford. "Just wait until I tell the Hendersons, their son only got into Berkeley." Serafina leaned forward, her expression a mixture of surprise and what looked suspiciously like jealousy. "Stanford. Wow, I didn't think you'd get into a school like that. Their acceptance rate is what, 4%? Willow remained mostly silent, occasionally glancing at Corbin with an expression that clearly communicated her displeasure at having her special day interrupted. Corbin, for his part, offered polite congratulations, though it was obvious he didn't quite grasp the significance of the achievement. "So, when did you apply to Stanford?" Serafina asked, a slight edge to her voice. "You never mentioned you were trying for PhD programs." "I didn't apply," I explained for what felt like the 10th time. "Professor Reese nominated me for a special program. I found out when I opened my diploma holder after graduation." "After graduation?" my father frowned. "You mean today? At the ceremony?" Here it was. The moment when they might acknowledge their absence. But instead, my mother quickly interjected. "Professor Reese called us about an hour ago, absolutely thrilled. He was surprised we weren't all celebrating with you already." I felt a twist in my stomach. "What did he say, exactly?" My father took over. "He said you'd received one of the most prestigious opportunities in computer science. Called it a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and said you were one of only 3 people selected nationwide." Serafina whistled, seeming genuinely impressed for the first time. 3 out of how many? 300, according to Professor Reese, my mother said proudly, as if she had been closely following my academic career all along. "That's quite selective," Serafina admitted. Her Harvard Law acceptance rate had been around 15%, and she had never let anyone forget it. "But why didn't you tell us you were being considered for Stanford?" my mother pressed. "Because I didn't know," I repeated, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. It was a complete surprise to me, too. I watched their faces on the screen, looking for any sign of remorse or guilt about missing my graduation. There was none. In their minds, the Stanford acceptance had completely overshadowed the fact that they had abandoned me on my graduation day. The very thought made my chest tighten with a bitter realization, to them, I was only worth attention when attached to a prestigious name. So, what exactly happened with Professor Reese? I asked, wanting to understand how this sudden family mobilization had come about. My mother explained eagerly. He called your father's cell phone during Willow's gift opening. Said he was looking for you, but couldn't reach you, so he tried the family contacts you'd listed in your university file. He wanted to congratulate us on having raised such a brilliant daughter, my father added, beaming. Said, your research work is revolutionary, or something like that. He was quite surprised when we mentioned we were at Willow's bridal shower, my mother continued, lowering her voice slightly. He assumed we'd all be celebrating your graduation together. I could imagine Professor Reese's disappointment when he realized my family had skipped my graduation entirely. The thought of him defending me, believing in me when my own family didn't, brought a lump to my throat. And then what happened? I asked, already guessing the answer. Well, once he explained how significant this Stanford opportunity is, we realized we needed to celebrate right away. My mother's tone suggested this was the most natural conclusion in the world. So, you just left Willow's bridal shower? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. Willow chose this moment to speak up. Yes, they did, she said sharply. Right in the middle of everything. The caterers are still there, all the guests are confused, and we're driving to your apartment because apparently Stanford is more important than my engagement. Willow, my mother scolded. Don't be selfish. This is a tremendous achievement for your sister. Selfish? Willow's voice rose. You've been planning my bridal shower for months, and you cancel it halfway through because Alara got into some program? Couldn't this wait until tomorrow? I watched the family dynamic I knew so well play out on my phone screen. My mother defending one daughter to another. My father looking uncomfortable with the conflict. Serafina observing it all with detached interest while Corbin tried to soothe his fiancée. What surprised me was that for once, my mother was taking my side against Willow. It had never happened before. All it took was a Stanford acceptance letter. We'll reschedule the rest of your shower, sweetie, my mother assured Willow. But this is big news for Alara. You should be happy for your sister. Willow rolled her eyes but fell silent. My father changed the subject. We should have a proper celebration for Alara this weekend. A big party. We'll invite everyone, the neighbors, my colleagues, your university friends. My mother immediately seized on the idea. Yes. I'm thinking Saturday evening, catered, of course. I'll start a guest list tonight. Serafina jumped in. I have some contacts in California. I could introduce you, Alara, legal counsel for tech companies. Very valuable connections. They continued making plans, discussing a celebration as if they hadn't completely ignored the actual accomplishment earlier that day, as if showing up for a party afterward somehow made up for missing the moment itself. They informed me they would arrive at my apartment soon and expected to stay for at least an hour to toast my success, despite the late hour. I felt exhausted just thinking about it. I appreciate the thought, I said, cutting through their planning, but I'm actually really tired. It's been a long day. An understatement if ever there was one. Tired? But this is huge news, my mother protested. I know, and I'm thrilled about Stanford. But I need some time to process everything. Could we maybe do this tomorrow instead? They reluctantly agreed, though not without extracting a promise that I would be available for brunch the next morning. The call ended with effusive congratulations and declarations of pride that rang hollow after their earlier absence. I put down my phone and leaned back against the sofa, emotionally drained. The Stanford letter that had brought me such joy just an hour ago now felt tainted by my family's conditional approval. I picked up my phone again and called Emma, needing to talk to someone who would understand. Hey, I said when she answered. You won't believe what just happened. I told her everything, from finding the Stanford letter to my family's abrupt change of heart. I should be happy, right? I asked her. They're finally paying attention to me. Isn't that what I've always wanted? Emma's response was a soothing balm, gentle yet incisive. Alara, you deserve attention simply for who you are, not merely for the prestigious opportunities you receive. I'm beyond thrilled about Stanford, you've earned it. But I understand why you feel conflicted about your family's reaction. After talking with Emma for nearly an hour, I felt somewhat calmer. She promised to come over the next day after my family brunch to celebrate properly. As I got ready for bed, I couldn't help thinking about Professor Reese. His belief in me had opened this door, and I was profoundly grateful. But I also felt a complicated mix of emotions about the way his phone call had suddenly made me visible to my family. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts a tangled mess of excitement about Stanford, hurt about my graduation, and apprehension about facing my family the next day. Eventually, exhaustion overtook me, and I drifted into an uneasy sleep, the Stanford letter on my nightstand, the physical proof that I was finally worthy of my family's attention. I woke up early the next morning, a knot of anxiety already forming in my stomach. The excitement of the Stanford acceptance was still there, but it was overshadowed by the impending visit from my family. I spent an hour tidying my already clean apartment, more as a way to calm my nerves than out of any real need. At precisely 10 o'clock, a forceful knock announced their arrival. I opened the door to find my entire family standing in the hallway, looking like they were attending a formal event rather than a casual brunch. My parents carried flowers, champagne, and an elaborate cake with "Congratulations, Stanford Scholar," written in elegant script. Serafina held a carefully wrapped gift box, while Willow stood slightly apart, her body language screaming reluctance. "There she is, our Stanford girl," my father boomed, stepping forward to give me a hug that felt foreign and awkward. When was the last time he had hugged me? I couldn't remember. They filed into my modest apartment. My mother immediately taking charge of the space, placing the flowers in a vase I didn't even know I owned, and arranging the champagne and cake on my small dining table. "This place is cozy," my mother said, her tone suggesting she meant the opposite. "Of course, you'll have graduate housing at Stanford, won't you? Much more suitable for a doctoral candidate." Serafina handed me her gift. "I thought you might need this for California," she said. I opened it to find an expensive designer handbag, something I would never buy for myself. "It's lovely." "Thank you," I said, setting it aside. The price tag had been left on, not so accidentally, I suspected. It was more than my monthly rent. Willow remained near the door, scrolling through her phone and occasionally shooting annoyed glances at our parents. My father popped the champagne and poured glasses for everyone. "A toast to Alara," he declared. "Stanford University. Who would have thought our middle daughter would achieve something so prestigious?" The casual dismissal in his words, "who would have thought," stung more than he could know. Had they really thought so little of me all these years? My mother jumped in with plans for a celebration party. "I'm thinking Saturday evening, around 50 guests. The caterer I use for my charity events is available. We'll send out electronic invitations today." Serafina added, "I've already texted some of my contacts in Silicon Valley. They're very interested in meeting you. One is legal counsel for a major tech company. Could be a valuable connection." Willow finally looked up from her phone. "Are we going to reschedule the rest of my bridal shower, or has everyone forgotten about that completely?" Her tone was sharp. "Of course, we'll reschedule, sweetie," my mother assured her. "Maybe next weekend?" "My wedding is in 3 months, Mother. We don't have unlimited weekends to reschedule things you've already committed to." No one mentioned my graduation. No one acknowledged that less than 24 hours ago I had stood alone on a stage receiving my master's degree while they celebrated Willow. It was as if that event had never happened, completely overshadowed by Stanford. Something inside me snapped. "I'm so glad you all finally think I'm worth your time," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface. The room fell silent. My father lowered his champagne glass, looking confused. What do you mean? We've always been proud of you. Have you? I challenged. Because yesterday, not one of you showed up to my graduation. Not one. And no one has even mentioned it since you got here. My mother's expression shifted to discomfort. Alara, don't ruin this special moment. We're here to celebrate your Stanford acceptance. That's exactly my point, I said. It's hilarious that it takes a Stanford acceptance to make any of you pay attention to me. Where was this enthusiasm yesterday? Or at my undergraduate graduation? Or at any point in my academic career? Serafina looked down, avoiding eye contact. Willow sighed dramatically. Here we go again. This is why I hate when Alara makes everything complicated. Complicated? I turned to her. Is that what you call wanting my family to show up for important moments in my life? Is that too complicated? My father tried to defuse the situation. Alara, you've always been so independent and capable. We didn't think you needed the same level of support as your sisters. That's your excuse? That I was too capable? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Let me remind you of a few things. You all missed my piano recital when I was 15 because Serafina had a tennis match. My undergraduate graduation, where Mom stayed for 30 minutes before rushing off to help Willow prepare for an internship interview. And yesterday, my master's graduation, because Willow's bridal shower was more important. You're being unfair, my mother protested. We're extremely busy people. We can't be everywhere at once. Strange how you managed to be present for every single one of Serafina's court appearances and all of Willow's fashion shows and engagement events, I countered. Serafina surprisingly spoke up. You know what? She's right. She looked directly at me. I've always been jealous of you, Alara. You're naturally brilliant, while I had to work twice as hard for everything I've accomplished. This confession momentarily stunned me. Serafina, the golden child, jealous of me? It seemed impossible. Willow wasn't having it. At least Serafina puts in effort. Alara just thinks about herself all the time and never participates in family activities. Participate? I laughed bitterly. I've been trying to participate my entire life, but none of you ever wanted me there. Do you know how it feels to sit at family dinners and be completely ignored? To have your achievements dismissed as, oh, that's nice, Alara, before the conversation immediately turns to Serafina's latest case or Willow's newest boyfriend? Serafina attempted to mediate. Look, we've all contributed to this situation. Maybe we should try to understand each other better. But her words only fueled the fire. Both Willow and I turned on her, creating a three-way argument that my parents failed miserably to control. The confrontation reached its peak when I finally asked the question that had been burning inside me. Do you have any idea how I felt standing alone on that stage yesterday, watching every other graduate being hugged and congratulated by their families, while the seats I reserved for you sat empty? My mother began to cry, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. We never meant to hurt you. We love you, Alara. My father tried to redirect the conversation. What matters now is Stanford and your future. This is a tremendous opportunity. That's exactly the problem. I exploded. You only care about achievements and prestige, not the actual person I am. If Professor Reese hadn't called you about Stanford, would any of you have even remembered I graduated yesterday? The silence that followed was answer enough. Serafina's expression softened with what looked like genuine remorse. Willow stared at the floor, her earlier defiance deflated. My parents exchanged guilty glances. I'm going to Stanford, I said finally, my voice quieter but firm. But I'm doing it for myself, not for any of you. And I don't want a big celebration party. I don't want 50 guests who've never cared about me before to suddenly pretend they're interested in my career. Elara, please, my mother began, but I cut her off. I think I need some time and space from this family. I appreciate that you're excited about Stanford, but I can't pretend that makes up for years of being ignored and forgotten. Willow was the first to leave, muttering something about always making everything about herself as she stormed out. Serafina hesitated, clearly torn between following Willow and staying to resolve things. Maybe we should all take some time to cool down, my father suggested, his usual confidence shaken. We can talk again in a few days. They gathered their things. The celebration mood completely evaporated. My mother looked devastated, my father confused and uncomfortable. Serafina gave me a long look that contained something I'd never seen from her before, something like respect. As they headed for the door, my mother turned back suddenly. She walked over and embraced me, whispering, "I'm sorry. I truly am sorry." I stood stiffly in her embrace, unable to return it. The apology felt too little, too late. When they were gone, I closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down to sit on the floor. Only then did I allow the tears to come. Tears of anger, hurt, and a strange sense of relief. For the first time in my life, I had stood up for myself against my family's patterns. I had refused to accept their conditional love and attention. It hurt unbearably, but somewhere beneath the pain was a sense that something important had just happened, something necessary for my own healing and growth. The day after the confrontation, I called in sick to my research assistant position. I needed time alone to process everything that had happened. I turned off my phone, avoiding the barrage of calls and messages from my family. I needed space to think, to breathe, to figure out what I truly wanted moving forward. I spent the morning taking a long walk through the park near my apartment. The fresh air and physical movement helped clear my head. I found myself at my favorite coffee shop, the quiet corner place where I'd spent countless hours working on my thesis. It felt like neutral territory, a place untainted by family drama. As I sat nursing a latte, I saw Emma walk in, concern evident on her face. She had texted me several times, worried when I didn't respond. "There you are," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I was getting worried. "Are you okay?" I gave her a brief rundown of the disastrous family brunch. "I finally said all the things I've been holding back for years," I concluded. "And now I don't know what happens next." Emma listened attentively, without judgment. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I understand how you feel," she said gently. "But I also think your family is trying, in their own flawed way." Trying? They ignored me my entire life until Stanford came along. "People express love differently, sometimes badly," Emma said. "My mom used to criticize everything I did. It took me years to realize that was her way of showing she cared, wanting me to be my best." I considered her words. "That doesn't make it hurt any less." "Of course not. But here's something to consider. I lost my mom last year, and I would give anything for more time with her, even with all our issues. Having an imperfect family is better than having no family at all." Her words gave me pause. Emma rarely spoke about her mother's death, the pain was still too fresh. "I'm not saying forgive and forget," she continued. "You absolutely should set boundaries, but maybe don't cut them off completely." After talking with Emma, I decided to visit Professor Reese to thank him properly and discuss the Stanford opportunity. I found him in his office, surrounded by stacks of research papers. "Elara," he greeted me warmly. "I've been hoping you'd stop by. Congratulations again on Stanford." I thanked him sincerely for the nomination and recommendation. "I hope I didn't cause problems with your family," he said, looking concerned. "When I called and realized they weren't at your graduation, I was rather surprised." "It's complicated," I admitted. "We had a pretty big confrontation about it, actually." Professor Reese nodded thoughtfully. "Family relationships are rarely simple. I had a complicated relationship with my father for most of my life." "Really? I wouldn't have guessed that." Oh yes, he was a practical man who couldn't understand why I wanted to pursue theoretical computer science. We barely spoke for years. He smiled sadly. We reconciled eventually, but much later than we should have. What changed? I asked. I realized that while he didn't show support in the ways I wanted, he was still supporting me in the ways he knew how. And I learned to set boundaries without severing the relationship entirely. His words echoed Emma's advice, giving me more to consider. When I finally turned my phone back on that evening, I found several messages from my family. Most surprising was a long email from my father. Something unprecedented in our relationship. Dear Ilara, it began. I've never been good with emotional conversations, which is why I'm writing this email. I want to apologize for my role in making you feel overlooked and unappreciated. After reflecting on what you said, I realize we've consistently failed to acknowledge your achievements and be present for your important moments. I've always seen you as the strong one, the independent one who didn't need as much guidance as Serafina or Willow. I now understand that was unfair and caused you pain. The truth is, I've always been immensely proud of you, but I never learned how to show it properly. Your accomplishments have been extraordinary, and that was true long before Stanford. I should have told you that every day. Would you be willing to meet me for coffee? Just the two of us. No mother, no sisters, just a father trying to do better by his daughter. Love, Dad. The email left me with mixed emotions. On one hand, it seemed sincere. On the other, it had taken a major confrontation to prompt this level of introspection from him. Still, it was more than I had expected. After consideration, I agreed to meet him at a cafe midway between our homes. Our conversation was awkward at first. Neither of us used to communicating openly. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, my father began, about how we've treated you differently from your sisters. I nodded, waiting for him to continue. I never realized how it looked from your perspective. I always thought Serafina needed more attention because she struggled with confidence, and Willow needed guidance because she's impulsive. I thought you were doing fine on your own. I wasn't doing fine, I said quietly. I was achieving things because I was desperately trying to get your attention, but nothing ever seemed good enough. He looked genuinely pained by this revelation. I never wanted you to feel that way. I'm sorry I wasn't there for your graduation, for any of your graduations. We talked for over an hour, more honestly than we ever had before. He acknowledged the favoritism in our family and surprisingly suggested family therapy, something I never thought he would consider. Your mother and I need to do better, he said. We all do. Later that week, I received an unexpected call from Serafina. I've been doing some soul-searching, she said without preamble. I always knew I got preferential treatment, and I never did anything to change that dynamic. No, you didn't, I agreed, not willing to let her off easily. I should have been a better sister. I should have supported you the way siblings are supposed to support each other. Her honesty surprised me. Why didn't you? Insecurity, she admitted. You're naturally brilliant at everything you try. I've had to fight for every achievement. It was easier to distance myself than confront my jealousy. This revelation was startling. Serafina, the golden child, jealous of me? I'm heading to San Francisco next month for a case, she continued. If you decide to accept Stanford, I could help you look at apartments, introduce you to some friends in the area. It was the first time she had ever offered to help me with anything. I'd like that, I said cautiously. My thoughts about Willow were more complicated. Of all my family members, she had shown the least understanding of my perspective. She had grown up being the center of attention, and having that suddenly disrupted must have been shocking for her. After much reflection, I decided to write her an email. I didn't apologize for standing up for myself, but I did acknowledge how the family dynamics had affected us both. We've both been shaped by patterns we didn't create, I wrote. You've been cast as the baby who needs protection and indulgence, while I've been the forgotten middle child. Neither role has been healthy for us. I ended by suggesting we meet one-on-one, without the pressure of our parents or Serafina present. To my surprise, she agreed. Meanwhile, I carefully reviewed the Stanford materials and requirements. After confirming all the details with the computer science department, I officially accepted the scholarship. The excitement of this new chapter in my life was beginning to overshadow the family drama. As I started planning my move to California, I felt a growing sense of clarity about my relationship with my family. I didn't want to cut them off completely, but I needed to establish healthier boundaries. I needed them to respect me as an individual, not just as a reflection of their own aspirations or a bearer of prestigious achievements. I wrote a lengthy letter to my entire family outlining my thoughts and feelings. I expressed willingness to work on our relationships, but made it clear that things needed to change. I agreed to participate in family therapy when my schedule allowed and set specific boundaries about communication and expectations. I love you all, I concluded, but I also need to respect myself. Let's build a new kind of family relationship based on mutual respect and understanding. Stanford represents a turning point in my future, and I would like to share that journey with you, but on healthier terms. As I sealed the letter, I felt a weight lifting. For the first time, I was taking control of how I allowed my family to treat me. Whatever happened next, I would face it on my own terms. 3 months after the confrontation with my family, I found myself surrounded by packing boxes in my apartment. Stanford's fall semester was approaching, and I was preparing for my cross-country move. The past months had been a whirlwind of paperwork, housing arrangements, and preparing to leave my current research position. As I taped up another box of books, my phone buzzed with a text from Willow. "Need help with packing? I could come over this weekend." I stared at the message in surprise. Since our confrontation, Willow and I had met twice for coffee, conversations that had started awkwardly but gradually became more genuine. Still, her offering to help me pack was unexpected and touching. "That would be great, actually." "Saturday afternoon," I replied. When Saturday came, I felt nervous about spending extended time alone with Willow. Our coffee meetings had been in public places, with the safety net of being able to leave if things got uncomfortable. Now she would be in my space for hours. Willow arrived promptly, dressed casually in jeans and a t-shirt, quite different from her usual fashionable attire. The first hour was slightly tense as we worked silently packing books and kitchen items. Gradually, though, the rhythm of the work broke down the barriers between us. "I always thought you didn't like me," Willow admitted suddenly as she wrapped a coffee mug in newspaper. I looked up, startled. "Really? I always felt invisible to you." She shook her head. "I looked up to you so much when we were kids. You were so smart, so capable, but you always seemed distant, like you couldn't be bothered with me." "That's not how I saw it at all," I replied. "I always felt like the family outcast. You were the baby, the princess. Everyone adored you." We spent the next few hours unpacking more than just my belongings. We discussed our childhood, our perceptions of each other, and the family dynamics that had shaped us both. For the first time, I understood the pressure Willow had felt to be perfect and adorable all the time. "It's exhausting," she confessed. "Always having to be the cute one, the charming one. Do you know how terrified I am of getting older? My entire value in the family is based on being the baby." By the end of the day, I felt closer to my sister than I had in our entire lives. It wasn't a complete resolution of our issues, but it was a beginning. The following week, we had our first family therapy session via video call. I connected from my apartment while my parents, Serafina, and Willow gathered in my parents' living room. Our therapist, Dr. Garcia, skillfully created a space where each of us could share without interruption. My father, a man habitually cloaked in stoicism and business pragmatism, articulated his feelings more openly than I had ever witnessed. My mother, Cassandra, listened more than she spoke, a truly remarkable departure from her usual conversational dominance. Serafina acknowledged her competitive nature and how it had affected our relationship. Willow spoke about feeling pigeonholed as the baby of the family. When my turn came, I finally voiced my deeply entrenched feelings of invisibility, this time without the raw anger that had fueled our initial confrontation. Dr. Garcia guided us through the difficult conversation with compassion and insight. "This is just the beginning," she told us at the end of the session. "Changing family patterns takes time and commitment from everyone." We agreed to continue monthly sessions, a commitment I hadn't expected my family to make, but was touched that they did. The day finally came for my move to Stanford. My father had offered to help drive my belongings across the country, and after some consideration, I accepted. The prospect of spending several days in a car with my father would have terrified me a few months ago. Now I saw it as an opportunity to continue rebuilding our relationship. The drive from the East Coast to California gave us hours of uninterrupted conversation. We talked about his business, my research interests, and gradually delved into more personal topics. He told me stories about his own father, a demanding man who had rarely expressed approval. I began to understand how my father's upbringing had shaped his parenting style. "I never wanted to be like my father," he admitted as we crossed into Nevada. "But I ended up repeating some of his mistakes anyway." "You're trying to change now," I pointed out. "That's more than he ever did, right?" He nodded, a small smile forming. "You're very generous, Alara. More than I deserve." When we arrived at my new apartment near Stanford's campus, my father helped me unload and set up the basics. As we arranged furniture and unpacked essentials, he seemed genuinely interested in my new environment and academic program. We met with several of my new professors and colleagues, and I noticed a change in how my father introduced me. Gone were the qualified praises or comparisons to my sisters. Instead, he said simply, "This is my daughter, Alara. She's truly the most brilliant person in our family." The pride in his voice was unmistakable and uncomplicated by the expectations and conditions of the past. It was a small moment, but it meant everything to me. My relationship with Serafina also embarked on an unexpected evolution. She visited San Francisco for a case a month after my move, dedicating an entire weekend to helping me settle in. She introduced me to friends and colleagues in the Bay Area, genuinely eager to help me build a network. "I've always been proud of you," she confessed over dinner on her last night, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "I simply didn't know how to express it without feeling threatened by your innate brilliance." We began a tradition of weekly phone calls, something we had never done before. Surprisingly, Serafina started seeking my advice about career decisions, acknowledging my insight and intelligence in a way she never had previously. A year after my confrontation with my family, Willow's wedding day arrived. I was a bridesmaid, not by family obligation, but because Willow had genuinely asked me, a profound shift in itself. The ceremony was elegant and emotional, and during her reception speech, Willow included a tribute that brought tears to my eyes. "I want to thank my sister, Alara, for teaching me about resilience and the quiet power of courage," she said, her gaze finding mine. "For showing me that it's never too late to speak your truth and rebuild even the most fractured relationships." As I stood in the reception hall, surrounded by family and friends, I realized how profoundly things had changed in a year. My family was not perfect. We still had disagreements and occasionally fell back into old patterns. But there was a new foundation of honesty and respect that hadn't existed before. My academic career at Stanford flourished. My research in artificial intelligence gained recognition, and I was invited to present at an international conference. To my surprise and delight, my entire family flew out to attend my presentation. Seeing them sitting in the front row, genuinely engaged and supportive, filled me with warmth. Professor Reese, who had come to the conference specifically to see my presentation, beamed with pride afterward. "I knew you were destined for greatness, Alara," he said. "But I'm even happier to see how you've grown personally as well as professionally." The healing journey wasn't always smooth. There were times when old hurts resurfaced, when a careless comment or forgotten promise would trigger memories of past neglect. I learned that healing was a winding, non-linear path, and that rebuilding trust was a painstaking, gradual process. But I also learned the power of setting boundaries while keeping the door open for growth and change. Our family therapy sessions became less frequent, but continued to provide a structured space for addressing issues as they arose. We developed new ways of communicating, new traditions that honored each family member equally, and a new appreciation for our individual strengths and differences. 2 years after my dramatic graduation day, I was well on my way to completing my PhD with distinction. My relationship with my family, while not perfect, was healthier than I ever thought possible. We had all grown from the confrontation that had been brewing for decades. I had learned to anchor my self-worth deeply within myself, independent of external recognition or fleeting approval. I understood that people express love in different ways, sometimes inadequately, but that didn't necessarily mean the love wasn't there. I recognized the power of speaking truth even when painful, and setting boundaries without completely severing relationships. Most importantly, I discovered that forgiveness wasn't an erasure of the past or an excuse for harmful behavior. It was a liberation from the suffocating weight of resentment, creating vital space for new, healthier connections to flourish. As I sat in my Stanford apartment one evening, looking at a family photo taken during their last visit, I reflected on the journey we had taken together. We were no longer the idealized, perfect family I had once yearned for as a child. Instead, we were real people, imperfectly human, who had learned to love each other more genuinely and completely. The most valuable relationships, I once told a group of new graduate students, are often the ones we have to fight for. Family isn't the perfect dream we imagine, but the imperfect people we learn to love despite their flaws. From the deepest wounds can come the greatest wisdom. My path to Stanford had been paved with pain and neglect, but it had also led to healing and growth that extended far beyond academic achievement. I often wonder now what moment in your life taught you about your true worth. Did you need a letter from Stanford to realize it? Or was it something smaller, quieter, but just as powerful? If you've had a similar experience with family dynamics or discovering your value, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that their worth isn't determined by others' recognition. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, your value comes from within, not from external validation. This has been an Echo Tales story. Join us next time for more narratives that resonate.